officially call the meeting to order. This is the October general body meeting of the Penn Branch Citizen Civic Association. My name is Jacqueline Cannon. I'm the current vice president for the organization. I would like to take a moment to just acknowledge everyone that came out tonight. We thank you, and if you're coming to visit us for the first time, welcome. I also would like to take a moment to acknowledge one of our longtime Penn Branch residents who recently made her transition, Mrs. Turner. She was a longtime resident at 1710 33rd Place. Ms. Turner was 97 years old. Oh my God. And she had lived in Penn Branch for over 60 years, I understand. And for many of those years, she was a very dedicated block captain for her block. So we'd like to just take a moment of silence to acknowledge Ms. Turner's dedication and support to this Penn Branch community. Thank you. We do not have final funeral arrangements yet, but as we get them during the course of the evening, we'll certainly make an announcement and let everyone know towards the end. A couple of housekeeping things before we go further. We ask that you please silence all your cell phones. We know you want to get those calls this evening, but we've got a lot of good information that our guest speakers are going to share, so please silence your phones. For those of you that are visiting Pennsylvania Avenue Baptist Church in the Fellowship Hall here for the first time, the restrooms are out the door to my left, to your right. Turn left and they're straight down at the end of the hall. And as I mentioned already, we have light refreshments at the back of the room. Please feel free to help yourself. We have handouts at the reception table, copies of the agenda. We'll also have handouts of Mr. Stark's presentation that will be distributed as we progress in the evening. We have membership applications for those of you who have not joined our Penn Branch Citizen Civic Association as of yet. Please take an opportunity to do that tonight. We have volunteers in the back that's very willing and able to help you get signed up via the website, via a reader card, or on paper, if that's what you want to do. But for those of you who have taken an opportunity to join the association, we thank you for your continued support. We also have survey forms. Penn Branch Citizen Civic Association, the board, we want to hear from you. We want to know from you what we're doing right, what we need to improve upon, things that you might be interested in that we have not focused on yet. So please take an opportunity to complete that survey form either tonight, tomorrow, or at some point, and get it back to one of our board members, particularly our secretary, Kyle Murphy, that's sitting up front here, taking copious notes for us. In fact, Kyle is the one who put that together, so we need to give him credit for that as well. Moving on then, we have a very important meeting and guest speakers lined up for you tonight. We have our illustrious Mayor Muriel Bowser that will share with us her vision about bringing economic development to Ward 7 and Ward 8, if we have any Ward 8 members, not members, but Ward 8 citizens that are here tonight. We also have Anthony Stark sitting up front here, who's from Gyro Lynch, is going to bring us an update on the shops at Penn Branch. I'm sure everyone is very interested in hearing about the status of the CVS and other development plans that are underway at the shopping center. Now, because of the two awesome speakers we have lined up tonight and the short timeline we have, we want to be respectful of the time, and we want to establish some ground rules right now as we are about to hear from Mayor Bowser very shortly. We'd like to ask that when we get to the Q&A period and it's time to ask a question, we want you to stand, state your name, and ask your question. We don't have a whole lot of time to go back and forth with a lot of commentary, but we want to be respectful and have you get your question asked and answered and give someone else an opportunity to ask their question as well. We're going to do a little different format for the meeting tonight. I'm sure everybody has a copy of the agenda, but what we normally would have the committee reports and the crime report and some other association-related things. We're going to forego that for this meeting and just focus on getting the awesome updates and presentations from our guest speakers. Is that okay with everybody?
Yes.
Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah.
Just a couple? All right. Okay. All right. I was just waiting for the cue that the mayor's here. But we have an opportunity to really hear from the mayor. I'm sure most of you are aware that maybe a few weeks ago, as we published in the October newsletter, the mayor announced an executive order that directed her Office of the Deputy of Mayor in Planning and Economic Development and the Department of General Services to identify potential relocation properties in Ward 7 and 8 neighborhoods when considering office space for the district government agencies. And through that executive order, we really hope that there will be a focus, as she stated, on using the district government agencies as a powerful tool to help bring businesses, and particularly grocers and other businesses that we all want in our neighborhoods to the area. So we're really looking forward to hearing what Mayor Bowser can do to help us get some of those types of businesses within the local Penn Branch shopping center. And we have Anthony Stark here to that we can all ask questions about what's going on over there as well.
Yeah.
And while we're waiting for the mayor to come, I'd like to just extend a thank you to just some key people that have helped to bring about this session tonight, this meeting tonight, and make it a success. First off, I wanted to acknowledge Tawana Banks for purchasing the food and getting everything set up to provide the refreshments for the evening. My entire board, actually. Kyle for always taking the copious notes, and our greeters in the back of the room, Ms. Prince and Ms. Tony, all the volunteers that are helping out tonight. Shannon, our illustrious president that is here with us this evening, and all of our community leaders. I want to thank Mr. Charlie Boyd, who's not here tonight, I don't believe, but he's always putting out the association signs and making everybody aware as to when the meetings are. I know he can't make it, but we just appreciate everybody that has a hand in making this night possible. Mayor Bowser? Not yet? She's coming? Okay. Let me put my glasses on so I can see all the way to the back of the room. Okay. Well, we've got a few more minutes. We'll just take a moment to to ask a question. How many of you have actually visited the Penn Branch website lately? A few people. Awesome. What do you think? Good? Well, good. I appreciate the fact that everybody is checking the website. I want to just highlight that we've made a lot of wholesale changes and updates to the website. Our goal is to keep the website updated with fresh content and to post copies of the presentations. You'll find the survey form out there. You'll find the membership form as well online, and any other presentations from Jar Lynch, past presentations, the newsletters on the website. So please take a moment to go there and have a look if you haven't done so already. Now, without further ado, I see our mayor has arrived. Welcome. I'd like to take a moment to just read part of Mayor Bowser's bio, if you don't mind. She's a hometown mayor who's committed to building pathways to the middle class and making sure that every Washingtonian gets a fair shot. Washington, D.C. is growing is a prospering city, now with more than 700,000 residents strong. To keep up this growth, the Bowser administration remains focused on making D.C.'s prosperity more inclusive, advancing D.C. values, ensuring that families and workers across the income spectrum can afford to live and thrive in D.C., and building safer, stronger, and healthier neighborhoods across all wards of the district. On November 6, 2018, Muriel Bowser became the first woman ever re-elected as the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the first mayor to earn a second term in 16 years. I think that deserves an During her first term, Mayor Bowser took bold steps to expand employment opportunities, build a healthcare system that meets the needs of residents in every corner of D.C., drive down homelessness, and invested in programs and policies that set more families up for success. Today, Washington, D.C. is a diverse and inclusive city, a leader in tech and innovation, and a place where residents and entrepreneurs of all backgrounds can thrive. Because of Mayor Bowser's commitment to leveling the playing field today, Washington, D.C. has the DCI Infrastructure Academy to train D.C. residents for high-paying D.C. jobs. And if there's anyone here tonight who has not taken advantage of that program, I strongly suggest you do that. She's also been responsible for the Safe Stronger D.C. Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, which has taken a public health approach to violence and prevention, the Immigration Justice Legal Service Program, to ensure that immigrants in the district know their rights and have access to legal support systems. She's also established the Office for East of the River Services, which is responsible for marshaling the resources of our entire government to improve lives of Washingtonians in Wards 7 and 8. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I present to you Mayor Muriel Bowser.
Well, good evening, Penn Branch. It's wonderful to see everybody here, and I want to thank you for your attention tonight. And I want to thank your leadership for inviting me, and I think that I've had the opportunity to present to Penn Branch on a number of occasions. So you know what our kind of program is. I like to say a couple of things, and as it pleases your chair tonight, I will be able to take your questions. So let me first let you know that I've invited a number of my cabinet officials to join me at the meeting, and they are here to answer all of the hard questions. And I'll take some too. So let me just ask them if they would, and I'll start with Ashley, to stand and introduce themselves.
Hello everyone, I'm Ashley Emerson, and I'm the Mayor's Director of the Mayor's Office on African American Affairs. Oh, I should use the mic, sorry.
Well, that will take too long. You can't hear. You're going to have to just talk up.
I'm Ashley Emerson, the Mayor's Director of the Mayor's Office on African American Affairs. And I'll be here after as well.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Chris Geldart. I'm the Director of your Department of Public Works.
Good evening, everybody. Jeff Meridian, Director of the District Department of Transportation.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Newland. I'm the Director of the Department of Aging and Community Living.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tim White. I'm the Executive Director for Office for East of the River Services.
Hello, everyone! Lucinda Babers, Deputy Mayor for Operations and Infrastructure.
Good evening, Assistant Chief Chanel Dickerson of Patrol Services South, MPD.
Good evening, everyone. N.S. Strapper, Director of DCRA.
Good evening, my name is Julia Irving, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Director of the Mayor's Office of Community Relations and Services.
Good evening, everyone. Eli Ross, Chief of Staff, Department of Parks and Recreation.
John Pelshikio, Mayor Bowser's Chief of Staff.
And I also would like to introduce my eyes and ears in Ward 7, or what we call the Mokers, from the Mayor's Office of Community Relations and Services. Wesley?
Hello, Wesley Leary, Ward 7 Mokers.
Shalon?
Shalon.
Ward 7 motion.
Okay, so those are the introductions, and let me just say a couple of things. First, I want to say thank you. I want to thank you for all of the support, suggestions, challenging questions, and fresh ideas that you have shared with our administration over the last almost 5 years. It is true, I get to be mayor of my hometown, twice elected, and first re-elected in 16 years. So that comes with a lot of energy, but it also is a big responsibility. You're allowing us 8 straight years to deliver on an agenda that affects every neighborhood across Washington, D.C. and across all 8 wards. We know that we have a growing and vibrant city. We've added residents, added businesses, and we stand out among cities across the world in really how dynamic, well-governed, and fiscally stable we are. We also know that that growth creates a lot of challenges too. With that growth, we have had tremendous pressure in our city on the cost of just about everything, but especially housing, child care, transportation, and the like. So it has been our great challenge in the last 5 years to make sure that we're continuing all of the good things that have brought our city back, but also being focused on how we can make sure that more people are able to enjoy and participate in this prosperity. So that continues to be our focus. You know, and I have talked to you before on our commitment in how we have doubled our investment in affordable housing and have delivered on that commitment and are challenging our teams to do even more. For example, the council just today voted on our update to the comprehensive plan, which helps us think about all areas of the city that need more development or that need more services, need more parks, need improved transportation networks and the like. And the update to the transportation plan allows us to think about that in an orderly way. And next week, we're going to add on our work on the comprehensive plan by actually setting a goal, a citywide goal for how we will add 36,000 new units of housing across the city. What I have heard frequently from residents of Ward 7 is we want affordable housing, but we don't want all of it. We want people of all incomes to be able to come and live in our community because we know how that affects our ability to attract retail and other amenities. And I've heard you loud and clear, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. So for the first time, and we're first in the region, to set a target for how we get to 36,000 new units by 2025, and also to set a target by planning area. And the city's broken down into 7 planning areas. So the planning areas that are west of Rock Creek Park in Ward 3 will have a goal, just like the planning areas in Ward 7 will have a goal. So on October the 15th, we're going to talk about exactly how we get there, exactly how we support continued investment of $100 million and more in our affordable housing programs, and how we're focused on building the middle class in our city. You heard from Ashley Emerson, who leads the Mayor's Office on African American Affairs. It was actually the creation of that office was one of the last pieces of legislation that Marion Barry got through the council. And the focus that I have charged this office with is really on economic prosperity for African Americans, and a large focus of that work is on home ownership. So Ashley and her team work across our agencies to make sure that we're making robust investments in our home ownership programs. One example is that we have focused on DC government employees. We have over 37,000 people that work for us. About half of them live in DC, and we want more of them to live in DC. And so we've crafted with Eagle Bank's special mortgage program for DC government employees. And we're hopeful that many, many more are going to be looking at Ward 7 and neighborhoods across DC to make DC home. We have also focused with you over the years on how we are attracting the types of amenities you want to your neighborhood, especially retail and especially grocery. And I know we have been laser focused on the Penn Branch Shopping Center. We were pleased to see some movement in the ownership, and we will continue working with that property owner to help identify the type of retail that you want. I think you know that we made an investment in a new fund that we have, the Neighborhood Prosperity Fund, and we will continue to look at investments like that. An additional tool that I have created to attract amenities for Ward 7, you may have read about, is a new leasing initiative. In addition to the government buildings that we own, that DC government owns, we lease a lot of space for our employees and our various agencies. A number of the agencies you heard from today are in leased space. And that government lease is an important tool to attract other development. So what I have ordered in my administration is that any lease that we embark on in the next several years will first have to consider projects that are underway or being considered for Ward 7 and 8 before that agency can look at any other parts of the city. And we know sometimes a government lease could be the difference between a project happening or not. And we have put a special focus, additional consideration will be given if that project includes a grocer. And so we are adding to our quiver, if you will, to make sure we're doing all that we can to get the type of amenities that we all want in every part of the city. We continue to be very focused on public safety issues, and I'm pleased to see the chief and your commander here, who I know spend a lot of time in your community meetings. And we want to make sure that anything that you're seeing is being addressed in your neighborhoods, and we continue to push crime down. Last thing that I'll mention is that we have been very focused on infrastructure issues across the city, and part of Jeff's charge at DDOT is a ramped up alley effort, Alley Palooza, where we have just totally transformed alleys across the city, and also Pave DC, which is also an increased effort to pave all of our secondary roads and get them to a state of good repair in this capital budget 6-year plan that we're currently in. And so you're going to see a lot of us. Make sure that you're letting us know how our workers are doing and our contractors are doing, so we can get all of the investment that we need done for our infrastructure. And I know there are frequently questions about schools and healthcare and all of that, and I'm happy to answer those questions as we go along. So that's my very brief update, and I'm available for questions. Is that okay? Okay. Got it. Question?
Well, first, thank you, Mayor Bowser, for your presence this evening. Given the increase, or 7% increase in crime across the district, and especially in Wards 7 and 8, and I see that robbery was increased and violent crimes had a 1% increase, I guess my concern is how will we curb that type of violence here in the district so that our businesses would want to come and invest in our wards? And given that, when will we have a groundbreaking for a full-service hospital in Ward 7 and 8, well, on the grounds of St. Louis?
So on crime, and thank you for asking that question, and I'm going to invite the commander to talk about some specifics related to your neighborhood in just a second. But let me tell you what we're seeing citywide. A troubling increase in shootings, not random and not widespread, but certainly concerning in all of the neighborhoods where it's happening. And so we are planning a different infusion of resources, and we're attacking it pretty in a targeted way. Where we're in the areas where we're seeing the most gun play, in the people who are most likely to be involved in those situations. And so I've had some very deep conversations, not only with our MPD personnel, our federal partners, and also the violence interrupters who have been tasked and greatly funded to know who our likely offenders are and how we can get them off the street. So there will be several things that you'll see differently in the coming weeks. So let me turn to Commander Habibullah, did I get it right? To talk specifically about Penn Branch.
So good evening. In reference to, you're right, there's a high increase in violent crime as far as homicides and robberies. And so one of the things that the chief has mandated is that I get 5% additional officers with discipline increase. But also I utilize all my resources in specific areas. So I might have an outreach where I try to include all of the different DC government agencies to try to sort of kind of squash some of the areas, specifically Minnesota Avenue. I might have an outreach to bring other DC government agencies for that particular area to sort of kind of squash it. One of the other things that we're looking at is truancy and curfews as it relates to juveniles, because as you all know, if our juveniles are out there, we don't want them to get hurt. So in an effort, we try to get them from the street so that they're not hurt and harmed in any way. So there are various things that I try to do to try to cut down for the rest of the year, specifically as it relates to violent crime. For your particular area, one of the biggest things that I have over here, outside of the violent crime, is traffic. And so I try to, you all complain to me a lot about the traffic, and so I try to do all kinds of traffic enforcement in this particular area to sort of kind of stop or infringe on some of those commuters coming to your area and violating traffic enforcement. So those are the things I'm doing.
And so you also asked about our proposed hospital on the St. Elizabeth campus, and we continue to negotiate with the provider that we've selected, which is George Washington University Hospital. I think we're very close to final negotiations, at which time we will submit our package to the council for approval, which I'm hopeful that we will be doing before they go out on recess for the holidays. And then we will work our plan to get a shovel in the ground. We have some infrastructure work to do there. We have to replace a building there. And then the university partner, our hospital partner, will be building the new hospital. We're very, very close. Yes?
Let me come back with the microphone.
My name is Sandra Norris, and I live in the 1600 block of 38th Street. We have a house for sale in our neighborhood that is rumored that the lady will not be living in the house, but she will have 3 ladies, and it's supposed to be a group home. What can we do to try to combat the sale of that house as a group home?
So I'm not exactly sure, ma'am, where did you go? Okay, I'm not exactly sure if there is a legal way to prevent people from living in a house legally. Okay, so, and I don't know if I would have to ask a couple of questions. Is the government supporting this effort? Don't know. If the government is supporting this effort, it's because we need a safe place for people to live. And do our zoning regulations allow it? And do the Justice Department's fair housing regulations allow it? So based on just the very preliminary information that you provided, unrelated people, fewer than 6, living in a house is more likely than not legal. And so then I would ask a couple of more questions. For example, who's the provider? Is it being managed by a company? And if it is, I would want some people from our team to reach out to the company so that they could provide some information to neighbors. Okay, I got it. So that's basically, she may be operating under the auspices of some larger organization. I don't know that. And there are ways, agreements that we have, that neighbors have brokered in those cases. Usually what people have an issue with group homes are parking, and if the group home has employees, how the employees are in the neighborhood. And those are the types of things that can be worked out with some agreement with the provider.
If we have any more questions, we're going to ask if you would form a line right here so that it'll make it easier to get the microphones to you and back to Mayor Bowser. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Mary Dilworth. I'm the chair of your DC Higher Education Licensure Commission. And I was wondering if you had any thoughts about career and technical programs operating in the district now in terms of development of the programs and training.
Private ones or ours?
Private.
Okay. I don't have any particular, if there was some more specific question. The question was about private providers of vocational education. And largely, we just want them to do what they say they're going to do and not take advantage of our residents and take their money and not give them a credential that's worth anything. That's basically what I'm interested in. And more than that, I want our residents to know that they have fantastic options at the University of the District of Columbia. And even before they come out of our schools, we have, I think we're up to 10 academies in the schools that are training our students for the jobs that we have in DC right now. So thank you for your service. And so Ms. Dilworth is chairing one of our boards and commissions, so I'll just take the opportunity to plug our boards and commissions. You may know, I make 1,700 appointments to various boards and commissions that are governing bodies, like the WMATA board, or the MLA board, or the DC Public Libraries Board. Some of them are regulatory bodies, like the one that you're on that do some licensing, or like the Public Service Commission, or the Office of the People's Council. Others are advisory boards that they, like Ashley's commission, that give advice to the mayor on how to implement programs and services. All of them are very important, and we're always seeking energetic DC residents to serve on those boards. And you can find out more and about vacancies at mota.dc.gov.
How are you, Mayor? Thank you for coming. I want to publicly thank Wesley for coming to drag a dead deer out of my backyard. Thank you. But I'm asking, please, to consider some kind of program to rid our personal properties of the wildlife, that we have lots of wildlife in this area. I had a dead deer, had no idea how he got there. It was traumatic for me because I am not going to touch a dead animal. Not sure if he died of a disease. Sorry that you had to, Wesley. But anyway, when I called 311, I was instructed to call DPW, and DPW told me that I'd have to, bring the deer out of my yard, and I live up a hill down to the bottom. I don't know about anybody in here, but I'm not dragging a dead deer anywhere. Wesley, thank you. So they came to get it, but it was a whole day and a half later. So it started to decay. We had fox in this home that was placed in front of, was a young child in that home. I think it was deplorable conditions. I'm sorry that there isn't a better process, and Wesley did the best he could. He was going into a meeting, he spoke to the director of DPW, who assured him, hope that's not you, that he was gonna come that night, but then when I called the next morning, the deer was still there and beginning to decay. So I had to my question is, can there be a process put in place that does not require a trauma for our neighborhood, decaying animal, and for somebody in a suit to have to drag a deer down to the bottom of the hill? So that's the question. Okay.
Well, first, thank you, Wesley, for bringing it out. We would gladly do that as well. Unfortunately, though, for many instances, and we get calls for a lot of different things, not just deer. We get them for cars, we get them for trash, for bulk trash, things like that on private property, and we cannot go on the private property. There's a huge liability once we go on private property. Now, if there's an instance where you're the homeowner and you're there, you can call us and we will come and see what we can do to assist for you.
I did call.
Yeah, so if it went through 311, it goes into our process. We have, with each service request, we have a certain amount of time in which we have to do those. Unfortunately, we have a lot of dead animal collections that we do. So they get scheduled, they go through that, we try to get to them that day whenever we can. Sometimes it does take us up to 2 days to get there, and that's what we have to do. So, apologize for your instance that you had there. Again, going forward in the future, hit Wesley like you just did. Wesley can actually call me this time, because he didn't actually get me, but I'm sure he got my teeth on the phone to try to rectify that. So, apologize for your incident, but we are there to help, and we will do the best we can together.
Thank you, Director Geltard. And I like this attitude, because Director Geltard has a saying that I love to repeat for all of our agency staff, with 37,000 people that work for us. So at some point, they're all around DC and they see things. And what he is trying to instill in our staff is, if you see something, do something. That's what Wesley did. And so we want that kind of can-do attitude for every DC resident. What drives me crazy is, if I have 37,000 people that work for me throughout the city all day, why am I the one that notices the graffiti? I'm not picking on DPW. Or why am I the one that notices that the stop sign is missing? So all of us need to have that attitude. All of us in their government, but also all of us in our communities, because when you have that experience and you're notifying 311, or it could be something else in your neighborhood, we know that we have to put some heat and light and resources on the issues that you bring to bear. So I didn't actually realize that the dead animal requests were that frequent. So that's something that I'll have my attention on, and make sure that Chris and his team have what they need.
I appreciate it.
Now, Bowser, we have a question from one of our residents that was submitted online to us, and it is, what is your view regarding the disproportionate impacts of tree removal regulations and fines on communities such as Penn Branch, where residents must balance the real risks of trees falling on our homes or undermining our buildings against the need to preserve as many mature trees as possible in the neighborhood?
Well, part of the reason that I know you love Penn Branch is because of the trees. And so I do have a view that we have to do everything to protect our trees that we can, that are safe. And if a tree is not a safe tree or a dying tree, it is treated differently by our regulations. So the first thing I would want everybody to understand are what the tree regulations are for dead and dying trees. And so we're happy to come out and to provide another talk about the tree regulations, because there can be some assistance, I think, and Jeff can say a little bit more about how the regulations are different for dead and dying trees. Now, for a healthy tree, we want that tree. There's pruning allowed. There are different ways that homeowners can be accommodated, but we don't want to cut down the healthy trees. If you ever have the opportunity, we can have either DOEE or KC Trees come out to show you what the difference in our tree canopy now and 50 years ago. And you might be appalled by what you see, because we've thinned out our canopy a lot. You don't want to, trust me, you don't want to live in a city with no trees. It's terrible for our air quality, and it wouldn't be the Penn branch that you move to if we had kind of an indiscriminate policy for cutting down trees.
Thank you. We'll just take a few more questions here.
Thank you, Mayor Bowser, for taking my question and for attending our meeting. I'm a 30-year resident of Penn Branch, and I would like to know if your office supports the expansion of the Fort DuPont Ice Arena. It's a valuable resource in our community. Both of my daughters learned to skate there, and the facility desperately needs expansion and renovation and repair. So I really hope that you'll put the full force of your office behind supporting that expansion of that facility. Thank you.
I think somebody remind me about on the question of the Fort DuPont Ice Arena, we have in my current budget, I think, included the full amount. Full amount.
Yes, we have in the budget the full amount for the DuPont Ice Arena. Now, the Friends of Fort DuPont has also agreed to raise a certain amount of money, which then triggers our obligation. So we're continuing to work with them. And I'll make sure that my team comes out and gives everybody an update on how that progresses as we move throughout the year.
That doesn't make sense.
For us, and 15 something for them. 5, okay. So, ma'am, we think that the budget numbers that we're talking about are 25 million committed from us in the capital budget, and the nonprofit has agreed to raise $5 million for a $30 million budget.
Thank you.
You bet.
Hi, Madam Mayor. My name is Megan LeGrath. I live on Carpenter Street, and we've been here for about 3 years. We've been in DC for about 15 years. I had a question about alternative ways to commute into the city going across the Sousa Bridge. So my husband and I actually I can point out at least a half dozen other folks here who either run, walk, or bike to work every day rather than using cars or public transportation, just because traffic is unpredictable. And I at least know if it's going to take a long time, it's because I'm a slow runner rather than traffic. But we've noticed it's very dangerous for us to cross from the Pennsylvania-Minnesota intersection onto the Sousa Bridge, because you have the on-ramps and the off-ramps for 295. You have the crosswalks, but there's really no enforcement. So this was a problem for many of us already, and then 2 years ago, right about the time you had a baby, I also had a baby. And I'm very nervous about making that commute with her every day, not only because of the traffic, but also because there is trash and litter and broken glass, and it seems like no matter how many times we call 311 and ask for folks to come out and clean, and oh, by the way, they do, it just comes back very quickly. So I was wondering if you had any thoughts on how to sort of bolster the infrastructure around there to support alternative commuters like many of us. And thank you for your service.
I don't have any specific design suggestions, although I'm going to ask DDOT if we've done any work around there to make some design suggestions. I have frequently, probably the last time I was in this room, I think it came up, and that was a few weeks ago with AARP about the cleanliness of that area. So we need to put her, and Tim, I'm looking to, was that right? Did I just have that? Okay. So we'll be looking to your office to come up with a kind of plan to make sure the resource allotment to that intersection is what it should be. It's on the minds, I think, of a lot of your neighbors, the kind of cleanliness of that entry into the ward. So we need to have an enhanced kind of clean and safe package there. Do you have anything to add on that intersection?
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. DDOT will be making some improvements to the Pennsylvania-Minnesota intersection, and to address the specific point, we'll be upgrading the crosswalks there, making sure that the pedestrian experience is considerably safer. I think many of you know that the mayor has really prioritized transit, in particular the circulator, and so we are in the process now of planning for an expanded route for circulator to include Ward 7 that will help address some of the commuting challenges that you mentioned.
Give us some timing on the crosswalk upgrades.
So the overall project that we're doing is actually a fairly extensive construction project that will include new traffic signals, new hardware there. And that project is about a year away from starting the construction, but we'll be making the crosswalk improvements this year.
Thank you for this. My question actually relates to the DPW as well. I've been living in this area for more than 30 years. But my question is, what are you guys going to do about discouraging people from dumping in areas like on Park Road, around here? I'm running around taking pictures of trash, tires, mattresses. What are we doing to discourage that? Also, they did this lovely repavement on for DuPont, and now that the streets are nice and everybody can drive through, now there's more trash.
So, and we've also gotten a lot of kind of litter and dumping questions, and the big part of what we do, and we have a big campaign, public education campaign, not only from DPW, but from the Mayor's Office of Clean City. And so we're always talking about litter and dumping. DPW has some enforcement mechanisms that their teams can do. Chris has a whole environmental education team where they can write tickets and issue fines. Additionally, we put street cans everywhere where we think they can work without also not becoming a nuisance in the neighborhood. And we're pretty good about delivering on those street cans. On streets that are heavily used by commuters and for commuting traffic, we do see more litter. And just being immediately getting to heavily littered areas is one of the best deterrents. So we will continue to do that. I'm not a big lover of posting a lot of signs, although if ANC commissions and neighborhood groups want to work together on areas where they think signs would be helpful to discourage littering, we will continue to do that. We work with school communities. Sometimes the kids get blamed for all the litter. They are responsible for some, especially around neighborhood type of stores. But we have a lot of people in cars that are doing the littering as well. We have done some pretty good sting operations on the tire dumping. And we figured out there are a few bad guys who are going and doing this tire dumping, and we've gone to the source and gotten to a lot of them. So if there are hot areas, Wesley and Shalon should know where they are, and we should be making sure that we're going there very quickly. Don't get discouraged from calling us on littering. I know it can be exhausting, but it's so important that we're going out immediately to remove it. And we'll continue to do the public education. It's also good, and I know this neighborhood's been very good about hosting cleanups and doing cleanups. And as a city, we can do it together. There's no way that our agency, although people come to DC and always remark to me how clean it is, they can't believe how beautiful and clean it is. And we like it that way. DC residents like it that way. We take pride in how clean our city is. But we do need some neighborhood support, just block by block. One neighbor picking up block by block adds to the cleanliness of our city. But if I have one request, and we're going to do everything that we can, is don't stop calling us when you see dumping, even if it gets exhausting. Hold us accountable for coming out there right away to pick it up.
Good evening, I'm Mary. Thank you for being here. I have two questions. One is a very quick one for DPW regarding the removal of your leaves. What is the policy on that? I noticed with some of my neighbors, you will collect the leaves if we leave them, or if they are left on the curb, but at some houses, they are not collected. So I just need to know what is the policy. I know it's 7 bags, but...
Okay, I was actually waiting for the opportunity to do that, because leaf season is coming. We were talking about trees, and we love the trees as well, as much as we're out there collecting leaves. You are getting ready as residents of the city to get your flyers on leaf season. The one thing we ask, and we will collect the leaves, and I don't know exactly where you are here, but this Penn Branch area, I just looked at the physical breakdown of how we're doing Ward 7. We will start on November 4th, and what we ask is that all the residents rake the leaves to your tree box or the curb on the day of your pickup. That will come to you in a flyer. It will be on our website at dpw.dc.gov, and you can go there and see the exact day we're going to be in your neighborhood. We just ask again that you just rake your leaves out off your property, out to the tree box or to the curb, and we will come through there and hit all of and you'll see exactly where your neighborhood is on the sheets that we'll, and on our website that we'll have available for you.
And what about bags? And what about non-leaves?
So for yard waste, your yard waste can go in your bags, and we can do up to 6 bags. We can do up to 6 bags. I was literally just on a garbage route the other day picking up the bags. We can do up to 6. You put them out with your trash on your trash day. So if you put them out there with your trash, the trucks will pick them up.
Well, 311 needs to know it's 6 bags because they told me 7.
Okay. I'll make sure to check on that exact service request. Okay, and make sure that that information is clear. But we will pick them up with your trash if you put them out there. November 4th, that's when we start on leaf collection. The one thing I will just say to everybody is, Mother Nature doesn't always agree with us and get along with us on our schedule. So if we get days of heavy rain, we cannot collect because that will just mess up our equipment. And if our equipment gets messed up, then we get way behind on our schedule. So if it's raining, and we miss your day, we will be rescheduling, coming right back to that point when we start. So we'll have it up on our website if you miss it, and we'll get all our public communications out there to let you know when we're going to be right back in that area. But we know people are relying on us, and we'll be out there. I've actually assigned my senior team. Every person on my senior team has a ward. I have actually wards 3 and 4, because those are usually our heaviest wards. But I have my deputy of the agency has ward 7. So he'll be here.
Could you also talk about the bag recycling specifically, bags and recycling?
Okay. For recycling, when you put your recycling out, this is what is perfect. If you clean your recycling and you put it in the can, that's perfect. We don't want to have bags inside our recycling. We definitely don't want to have trash inside our recycling. So if you have recycling items, and there's a whole list of them on our website, for those things that can be recycled in our single stream recycling, clean them if you can, put them inside the can, all on their own. That's what we're looking for.
So part of the issue that we are having with recycling is, the little grocery bags that we get, we're dumping the recycling in the grocery bag in the can. Or we're just putting it in the regular kitchen bag and putting it in the can. Or we're putting, the little bags that the newspaper comes in, and when you don't read the newspaper, you throw the whole thing in the can. All of those things are a problem for recycling. So we just are issuing a reminder not to bag your recyclables, but to just put them right in the blue can unbagged.
Can I say something about that, Mayor? What we have on our block is when there's a lot of loose trash like that in the can, the trash collectors leave a lot of loose trash that fall. So we have a lot of loose trash that fall when it's not bagged. And the trash collectors, they drop the trash and they don't come back to pick it up. So every trash day, when there's loose trash in the cans, we have the cans and bottles running down our block when we're on the hill. They end up in front of my house.
That actually is a common issue that we're hearing across the city. And I've actually sat down with our head of collections and every single crew. And since I came on in February, I've done 3 trash routes and 2 recycling routes. To remind them that while we're out there, we pick up what we don't get into our truck. So please keep informing us, let us know if that's happening, because that's one thing that I got on them right away and said, look, I'm seeing piles of glass, because the truck sometimes will leave that once it crushes everything for recycling. And I'm seeing a lot of litter coming out of the back of the trucks because we're not getting in there and getting it crushed in like we need to. So we've hit them on that. Please keep letting us know if that keeps happening.
Recycling follow-up.
Sorry, we've got a person standing in line over here.
Good evening, Mayor Bowser. My name is Betty Graham, and I live down at the corner of P and Branch. And I wanted to revisit the issue of the trees. So the tree that's on the property was Southern Christian Fellowship. There was a storm maybe a couple of weeks before school started, and that tree split. It was dead, and then it was split, and it went down. One of my semi-retired neighbors, she was very vigilant, and she got, I guess, DCRA, someone to come and do an inspection. And they said it really wasn't an imperview, but they came out because it could have been, let's say, vermin, things like that, could have been living under the bush of the tree. Yes, it is fallen. They put like a brochure or something, but they couldn't really cite them to do it because it was a private, it's not residential or anything like that. And so that tree has still been sitting there. My house is in the lot next to it, and the rest of that tree is still standing. So my concern, in addition, there's another dead tree next to it. So my concern is how do we get them to deal with their dead trees? Because I try to deal with mine. Like there's one I need to take care of, but it's not. It can't fall on them. But their tree could fall on my house. So what's my recourse?
You may have stumped me. I have an idea what the recourse is. It's going to be unsatisfying to you. Right, but I'm going to kind of circle back to my team to see if I'm right. A lot of times, a tree issue between 2 private properties.
It's not issue between, it's right behind their property, and they know it there, because I'm sure.
I know, but what I'm getting at is it may be a private property to private property issue. If, however, and this is, I'm going to ask my team to investigate this. If, however, it poses a danger. For example, if that was on public property, if that was my tree, if that was the tree that belonged to the district government, and you called me to say that this tree is they don't like when I say this, but if this tree is a threat to my person or to my property, I have to do something about it, because now I put the district at risk.
But if that tree fell on your street, you'd have made them get it.
I would have gotten it. The city would have gotten it.
I know.
Right. But so what I'm saying is, the question I will investigate.
I think my baby, see that little girl right there? That's my baby. What if something happens to the roof?
What did they say when you asked them about the tree?
All he could do was put something on the notice of the door.
No, I'm not saying to the government, I'm saying to your neighbor.
I tried to we tried.
They just say no? Okay, so we haven't made contact with them. But it's the first thing I can do is Wesley and Shalon will track them down. So the first thing I want to do, ma'am, is what private property to private property issues. There's some things the government does. But one thing that, if it's a private property issue, then the neighbors have to work it out, even if it's an institutional.
It's on their property.
I got it. But what I'm saying is, but you're the one, you have a problem with it.
Well, it could be vermin, the cat.
I got it.
But the rest of that tree is tall enough so they can fall and hit me.
I got it. So what I'm saying is, the first thing I want to do, and I encourage this on any neighbor-to-neighbor issue, is that we figure out a way to talk. And sometimes what we can do is just help facilitate that conversation. So let's go there. And then I'm going to ask, who should I get to work on this? I'm going to get Lucinda to work on this, the deputy mayor for operations and infrastructure, to investigate the problem of if this is a life safety issue, if we can do something about it. Because if we can, we could help remove it and then charge them.
I mean, there's a ticket in. I mean, there's proof.
I got it. I got it. So we'll follow up on that.
Ms. Goldring is the director of the daycare there, so.
Okay.
She's appointed.
Okay. Thank you. Well, thank you, Penn Branch. I appreciate all your questions. You have met our team. They're going to be taking off with me, but they are always available to come out. Wesley and Shalon, again, are my points of contact with all the directors that you've seen here tonight. Have a good one.
Thank you, Mayor Bowser, all the deputies for coming out and delivering your vision and answering our questions. I know there were a lot of questions that we didn't get to cover tonight, so we really hope that you'll be able to provide follow-up written answers to our... All right, thank you very much. Thank you. Next, we have Anthony Stark that's going to do a presentation on the state of the shops at Penn Branch. I know everybody's buzzing around now. The hour is growing late, but I'd like us to give him your full attention. This things that are going on at the shops at Penn Branch is near and dear to all of us, and I'm sure we want to pay attention to his presentation. So we do have handouts available. If the volunteers in the back of the room, my daughter Veronica and a few others could pass out some of those handouts to the neighbors, we appreciate it. And without further ado, I'll present to you the Director of Investments for Jar Lynch, Mr. Anthony Stark.
Good evening. Thank you, especially to the leadership of Penn Branch Citizen Civic Association. My name is, as I said, my name is Anthony Stark. I'm the Director of Investments for Jar Lynch Real Estate Partners. We are the owner of the shops at Penn Branch, formerly known as Penn Branch Shopping Center. Unfortunately, I can't say that my cabinet or the mayor's cabinet is going to answer the hard questions for me, so you're going to be stuck with me. They're welcome to stay and answer for me, but looks like they're headed down. So I've been with this, or presented to this in this forum a number of times over the years. I think the last time I was here was back in the spring of this year. And so many of you know who I am, have seen me. I've had a number of private conversations and conversations with smaller groups, including residents on O Street, A&C, over the years as well. So I will be brief in just giving a quick recap of who I am and why we're here. My firm, Jar Lynch Real Estate Partners, we purchased the Penn Branch Shopping Center out of foreclosure back in 2016. Actually 3 years ago this week. It was first week of October back in 2016. And we, sorry, I'm trying to go through my slides here. We purchased the property with three primary goals, which many of you know, and we've been sharing these goals with you over the years. The number one goal was to stabilize a neighborhood asset that has been in this neighborhood since the 1950s, or I'm sorry, 1960s, and stabilize the physical structure of the building. Number two is we've heard loud and clear from the neighborhood that what the neighborhood really wants to see is better neighborhood serving retail. And the third goal was, and the three goals are really interrelated. The third goal is to utilize or make better use of an underutilized 2-acre surface parking lot that's sitting on Branch Avenue. And so I'm here to provide a bit of an update on, on the status of how we're doing in those goals, and then there are some specific questions around certain tenants and then the future redevelopment. So just a brief update is we are now at the final stages of an $11 million investment in your neighborhood in a top-to-bottom renovation of the existing retail and commercial center. I'm sure you've driven by the site, I've been to the site, I've gone shopping there. There's been a lot of changes over the last several months that you've seen. Beautiful new facade, new signage, new tenant signage. That process is finishing out now. Additionally, there's been quite a bit of work in stuff you may not have seen, including a new 2-story commercial lobby that is going to provide better connectivity between the upper part of the site, or upper part of the building, and lower part of the building. And importantly, as we said, top to bottom renovation of second floor office space, ready for new tenants to start coming in. This included all the major building systems, roof, windows, mechanical systems, so the building is ready to serve as an anchor for this neighborhood for the next 50 years. And to that end, you're starting to see the first round of some of the new vibrancy and new retail that we're bringing to the existing center through the renovation. Our new anchor, Planet Fitness, opened about 10 months ago. We have a new fast casual restaurant, Paisano's Pizza, that's going to be opening early next year, and I am almost ready to announce, but can't quite do it, at the 1 yard line in lease negotiations with a full-service sit-down restaurant, cafe, coffee shop concept that's going to be, I think, is going to be very welcome in the neighborhood. So hope by well before the next time I come out here, we'll be able to make a more formal announcement of that. So very excited. I'm sure you're all going to be very excited about that as well. So a brief update on just the leasing process of the existing building. Right now, 2 of the 14 total retail spaces are vacant. We're actively seeking tenants for those spaces. They're generally smaller spaces, and one was actually used as our construction office. That'll be cleared out in the next couple of days. So we're actively working to identify tenants for those spaces. Everything from juice bars, smoothie shops, might be out of battery, so I'm going to have to...
I think he got
I'll just have to talk louder, as loud as I can. So, as I said, we're actively seeking, especially food-driven restaurants. That's what we've heard the neighborhood really wants, is additional food opportunities. And so that's what we're seeking for those remaining vacant spaces. And as I said, the next time we talk, we'll be able to announce officially a new sit-down restaurant that's going to be coming to the neighborhood.
Can't hear you. Thank you.
Go higher for you. You might want to maybe kind of stand in the center. Come halfway.
Maybe you in the back can move up front.
Come up here. Come on down. There you go.
Apologies, the mic went out. Looks like we're trying to get some new batteries for it. And then a couple things on the watch list, and one of the items everyone is interested to hear about is CVS. As you all know, CVS has been at this shopping center since, I believe, 1979. Before it was even CVS, it was People's Drug back then. When we purchased the site, again, 3 years ago, our #1 goal at the time, and still is to get in a long-term commitment and long-term extension, lease extension with CVS, including a renovation of their store. That has been in our business plan from day one. CVS's current lease expires in June of next year, and thus far CVS has not been willing to commit to a long-term extension. Some of this is rumor, but we are aware that CVS is in negotiations with the owner of the laundromat site next door, and is potentially looking to do a standalone store on that site. So that is not official. No, from what I'm told, nothing has been signed on that, so that's all I can tell you about that. But again, we have made at least half a dozen formal offers to CVS in the last 3 years, and have essentially a standing offer for a long-term extension with significant capital dollars that we'd be providing CVS to renovate their store. So we are going to continue working until they leave June of next year. We're going to continue working to try to get an extension, but we are going to start making preparations for what happens to this space and what happens to the building if they do leave. And so we can't sit on our hands and see them leave June of next year and not have another plan in place
ready to go.
Okay, got it better. Yeah, I'll take a quick question and then.
No, it's not even a question. As chairman, well, good evening, Penn Branch. My name is D.L. Humphrey. I'm the chairman of ANC 7B. Real quick, as chairman of ANC 7B, one of the biggest things that we have been fighting for is to make sure that we keep CVS here in Penn Branch Shopping Center, because we have so many. We have the aging community, they're aging in place. One of the biggest things is that, for people to have, diabetes, whatever the health ailments are, we want to make sure that we keep CVS here, and Penn Branch Shopping Center has been a pillar of our community for over 30 years. So as chairman of ANC 7B, I would love to, whatever we need to do as 7B to make sure that we keep CVS here in the community, I'm more than willing to do it. So I want to make sure that you have that on record to know that we want to make sure that we're keeping CVS here in the community.
Thank you. And again, I will say, our interests are very much aligned. It's tough for us to potentially lose an anchor such as CVS that really brings a lot of traffic to the site. And so we are continuing to do everything we can to keep them. I would assume CVS has no interest in leaving the neighborhood completely, and that's why they're looking at the adjacent property. If that's the case, it's bad news for us, but we will do whatever we can to help smooth that transition to avoid, a gap between when they open. We will do what we can to help them find temp space if they need to keep as they've done in other neighborhoods, to keep at least the pharmacy portion so the prescriptions can still get filled. But as I said, we're going to continue proceeding for a long-term commitment from them. But if we don't get it, we are beginning to make plans for what happens to that space in its next iteration if CVS leaves.
I concur with 7B. Albert Paul. We did some quick research with insiders who work in the store and one of the regional people. They, had 70% reduction in prescriptions because we didn't use the store, but because many of you remember Doc Brown. He was our pharmacist for years. When Doc Brown retired, they hired some neophytes. God bless them. They were inefficient, and so 70% of us removed our prescriptions to different places. Harris Teeter, the Safeway, the pharmacy that they have temporarily up on Nella Road. What I think is that the 7B, as well as this community group, tied to any community near us, should send a letter to the corporate office saying how we would, in a very positive way, we would like to see them stay and be clear that we recognize they lost prescriptions, and tell them honestly why they lost our prescriptions. Because of inefficiencies. But we now see they have a new pharmacist who is improving the services. The second reason they want to close is that they have a lot of theft at that store. Let's be clear about that. A lot of theft in that store. So we need to ask them in our communication, we understand that's also part of the problem. Why can't you put security in your own store and improve the cameras and have a better relationship with MPD to I don't care if they're 15 years old or 39 years old, take them away in handcuffs. And third and finally why they want to leave is they say from 8 to 10, nobody closed. Well, if you're a manager, ain't nobody ever in the store Monday to Friday from 8 to 10. Why are you running the store from 8 to 10? There's a cost associated with keeping the store open to 10. So the only thing I thought I would ask Gerald Lynch is they have this cyber technology corporations do to get real names of the current regional vice president of CVS, their mailing address, to the community members and leadership so that we can transmit a formal request expeditiously.
go on with it.
And another thing, are you planning to clean up CVS? Because it's dirty.
So I'll answer that question in just a second, but I will say we are happy to refer our contacts at CVS, provide some info. You didn't get it from me. I'm just kidding. Any assistance, and again, my opinion is a bit biased because we obviously want them as a tenant in our building. I don't think they, from their perspective, see a difference between our building and the lot next door, and I guess a lot of you don't see much difference there as well. And so it does seem like they are committed to being in the neighborhood. Unfortunately, we may lose them from our building. We're grown-ups, that happens, we understand. But it does seem that they want to commit to being in the neighborhood, and we'll, even though we're happy about losing a tenant, we'll live with it. So, and to your question, we have, and you've actually probably seen in the last couple of days, we have been harping on them since we bought the building 3 years ago to remove their ugly roll-down doors from the outside of the building. They finally put up roll-down doors on the interior to clean up their exterior facade, to improve their operations, keep keep those roll-down doors up during business hours. I don't know how many times I went out there during the day. They're open for business, and it looks like they're closed because the doors are down. And so there's some challenges with their store just because of it's smaller relative to their newer type stores. We have some of it's just the nature of the building. We have loading issues where we're not afforded a loading dock because we have a building that sort of faces two different directions at the same time, so we can't tuck a loading dock behind the building. And so there's some operational challenges for CVS that I certainly understand, and there's only so many that we can address. But again, it does seem as if they're committed to the neighborhood. I don't want to speak for them, and we would love to have them at our site, but that may not be the case. No.
Just in terms of future, you said that it will stay store-wise or retail, or is there some vision to make it condos at a later time? What is your goal?
So I think you're talking about the Branch Avenue lot, which I'll come back to in just a second. But if you're talking about the existing commercial building, our intent is, we just invested $11 million in renovation of the existing building, and it's going to stay as commercial and neighborhood serving retail for the foreseeable future. So if you don't mind, I have just a couple more slides to get through, and I'm happy to do as long a Q&A as you like. I don't have a time constraints that the mayor does, so I'm here as long as you are. So again, as I said, we are preparing plans in the event that CVS does leave. We do think the space can be reconfigured. It's a very deep space, so we're looking at options to make it less deep by putting some additional office, especially medical space, on the back side of the building, adding some windows on the back side overlooking the parking lot, and that allows for more conventional restaurant and fast casual retail space in the front portion of the current CVS.
I'm a little skeptical about that restaurant and all, because the rodents and whatnot will be many. And already you have Subway, you have what else? And then you're going to have a restaurant, and you're going to be like Georgetown or something, where nothing but rats around.
So just from a...
People that live in the back of it, they're going to be, flooded with rats.
So we've dealt with similar issues elsewhere. The key thing is purely just operational, and it's just making sure you're vigilant in addressing the issue, and vigilant in having your pest control contractor constantly coming out and doing the treatments necessary. There is, it's an urban environment, obviously, so there's no 100% foolproof solution to it, but you can be vigilant and address that just through operations.
The harbor doesn't need to be concerned because there's no, the rodents are there.
And then just continuing on, an update on leasing. As you know, the second floor of the building has about 16 or 18,000 square feet of office space. We are continuing to lease that space. We have 2 tenants signed that are going to be opening, one this fall, the other next spring, including the Strong Start program from the DC Office of State Superintendent of Education. And then we have about 10,000 square feet that we are actively leasing right now. We are closing in on some medical or health and wellness type of uses there that we think are going to be a great advantage and helpful to keeping CVS around as well. And so I know there's a lot of questions about sort of what the neighborhood can do and what can be done to help keep quality and improve the quality of retail and keep and retain that high quality retail in the neighborhood. And as I said, you know, our 3 interrelated goals, you know, the primary goal being bringing quality retail to this neighborhood, including grocery store, retaining CVS, bringing new restaurants, both casual restaurants and sit-down restaurants to the area. And we think the ultimate key to unlocking that potential is through the Branch Avenue parking lot, through the parcel on the rear of the building. As most of you know, we worked with this neighborhood, the ANC and the O Street neighbors last year to take the project through, or take the property through a rezoning to change the underlying zone from a residential zone to a zone that allows mixed-use development. And we went through that process because it gave us flexibility, and in exchange for that flexibility, you know, we committed to being very open with the neighborhood of exactly what we're doing, looking at all the options that we're continuing to look at. Whereas in a typical PUD type of scenario, you know, you get one option and this is what we submit to the zoning commission. This gives us the flexibility to be nimble so that, you know, if a grocer calls me and says, I need to be in Ward 7 and I need to open a store next year, we have the flexibility to react to that. And so we are continuing to look at options for how we redevelop the rear lot. And I just want to kind of walk through a couple. It's a little bit wonky, but just what are the things the neighborhood and we as the developer and owner of this property need to do to help attract additional retail. And I get a lot of questions from individuals about this saying, well, you know, we don't want too much affordable housing, which is certainly understandable, because they're concerned about, you know, is additional affordable housing or any type of housing here going to really drive additional retail demand. And so I just want to do a quick comparison to another neighborhood west of the river, Petworth, where there's been a lot of additional development and especially new retail development in recent years. And as you know, this neighborhood has some of the strongest incomes east of the river, has the strongest incomes east of the river, and comparable to a lot of neighborhoods west of the river. So you can see the median income in this neighborhood is right in line with Petworth at around $65,000, $70,000 a year. The big difference is population. This neighborhood, this market has about 5,000 people. Petworth has about 18,000 people, so there's a lot less demand. Now that does not mean you need to build 10-story high-rises all over every building. That's not what I'm here to talk about. But there are a number of ways you can get to better purchasing power to help attract that retail. One is make commuters customers, and that's some of the new retail that you're seeing at the center now is attempting to do that. Planet Fitness, they want to have 7,000 members, and that's 7,000 people. Now, a lot of those 7,000 are like me and join a gym and never go, but a lot of those 7,000 people are going to help. You know, they're going to be buying lunches when they stop by Planet Fitness, and it helps that Planet Fitness is open 24/7 because that creates demand all throughout the day. The next way to do that is through increasing daytime population, and this is where we very much applaud Mayor Bowser's initiative to bring government agencies and office tenants east of the river. And in my mind, this is really the bank, which gets you the best bang for your buck, is you don't necessarily need to do 1,000 new units of residential when you can get similar purchasing power and throughout the day by bringing the office and daytime population here. And we think that's critically important. And we're very excited to hear Mayor Bowser's initiatives to bring some office tenants east of the river.
I have a question about the affordable housing. It's been a long time, it's been a while, but what is considered the rates for affordable housing? I know that's varied, especially in this city. What's considered the rate for affordable housing as far as the salary?
Sure. So the term affordable housing and also the term workforce housing gets thrown around a lot, and everyone has different definitions. Generally in this city, we follow sort of the federal definitions, which is 60% of area median income and below is considered quote-unquote affordable housing. Now, area median income is kind of a weird term, but basically it's for a family of four. It's defined by the Census Bureau. The family of four in the DC metro area median income is about $120,000. So 60% of AMI is, for a single person, is about $45,000 to $50,000. For a family of four, it's in the $65,000 to $70,000 range. When we talk about workforce housing, that's even more ill-defined, but it's generally anything from 60 up to 120. So that could be a family of four with a $150,000 income is still in that quote-unquote workforce housing then.
So these are all going to be working people. These aren't going to be people who, lack of a better way of saying this, are on public assistance and not, let's say, in some people's eyes, contributing much to the community. These would all be working people, just not high salary.
Sure. So to jump ahead to the punchline, we have not executed any business plan for the redevelopment of the Branch Avenue lot yet. We are entertaining a number of options. Most recently, back in the spring, we told you we were discussing for sale townhomes. That table is very much, or that option is still very much alive. That probably has less bang for your buck than as far as bringing in new retail because it's lower density. It's only you'd only get about 35 or so new townhomes on the lot. But we are looking at a couple other options, including affordable housing, which we looked at several years ago and discussed with you. Again, that may not shift the AMI up from 60 up to 80, but it does bring in additional population, which helps that purchasing power in the neighborhood and attracting new retail. And then lastly, we are looking at an office development, and we are looking at potential DC government tenants and bringing them here as an anchor tenant. And that would very much sort of push us over the top at attracting higher quality retail.
Okay.
But to your specific question, if it is affordable housing or workforce housing, affordable housing is anywhere from generally from 30 to 60% of AMI, and then workforce housing is 60 to 100 or 120.
What's happening? Why can't we get into the lot easily? Why is it blocked off, and how long will that happen?
Sure. So the question for the folks in the back in here is why one of the entrances to the main parking lot has been blocked off. And there's a little bit of education, I think, that may be in order here. As you know, when you drive into the parking lot, there's what we call the heading bars, those steel bars that are supposed to prevent trucks and heavy vehicles from entering the parking lot. The reason they're there, the reason we call them headache bars, beside the fact that they give me a headache every day, is, as you know, the lower level space, which was originally a Safeway back in the 1960s, extends almost all the way out to Pennsylvania Avenue. So when you drive on the surface parking lot, what looks to be a surface parking lot off of Pennsylvania Avenue, that's actually the roof of the building below. So when you're driving there, you're driving on top of Planet Fitness. And for that reason, we have to prevent trucks from entering the site because there's a limit to how much weight we can support. And so that's why we have those headache bars there. And that's why we have those headache bars give you a headache, because trucks continually run into them and knock them down, and we have to pay someone to come out and replace them. We are working on and have some sketches from our architect of a more permanent solution. The most recent incident that knocked them down actually loosened up the foundations that they sit on, so we couldn't just do a Band-Aid fix of re-welding it back in place. And that's why we had to close off that entrance again to prevent large vehicles and trucks. We're going to do an interim solution of getting something back out there and having a parking lot attendant to help prevent trucks. So that'll be happening in the next couple of weeks. And then again, we are looking at a more permanent solution that it is intended both to make the quote-unquote headache bars more visible, so trucks are less likely to run into them, but also to help beautify the center. We think there's a nice, basically create a nice entry to the center that's going to, again, just beautify the center overall and kill two birds with one stone. Hopefully, prevent trucks from running into it more often. So.
I have a concern. You need to put a sign that says one way, because what is happening, we are going down and the people are coming up. You're going to have a terrible accident there.
Yes, ma'am. I assume you're talking about the alley on the side of CVS. Okay. Yes, we will absolutely, especially now that construction is finishing. The barricades that have been on the rear parking lot are going to be coming down in the next week or so. We will absolutely make sure we get one way and do not enter signs up there. I will absolutely make that a priority.
Does Carolyn have any interest in the laundromat site for itself or for the interim lot that's just sort of grass?
Yes, well, second question first, just to be clear, when I refer to the laundromat site, I'm referring to both. It's all one owner, it's two separate technical parcels, but we just kind of one owner, one property. As I have explained to this group in the past, we have absolutely made a number of overtures to the owner of that site over the years. We've probably made 8 offers to both purchase and or long-term ground lease the laundromat site for redevelopment. As many of you know, we have been trying very hard to bring a grocery store here, and we thought the Branch Avenue lot was the perfect opportunity to do that. What we're hearing from the market is that grocers want to they like the neighborhood, they like the demographics, but they want to be on Pennsylvania Avenue to get the visibility. And we thought that would be a perfect lot to be able to help bring a grocer here. Unfortunately, we just haven't had any success we've had a number of conversations with the owner. Right now it's owned in a family trust, so there's individuals spread out throughout the country. So we made a number of offers, and unfortunately it looks like CVS may have outbid us. But if anything falls through, we are absolutely going to continue to pursue that.
We're running over time, so we would like to thank you for
once again, just thanks so much for your time. My slides, there are some handouts, but if you don't have them, they were distributed electronically, and I think they're going to be posted on the Civic Association website.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, I was out of the room for most of Anthony's presentation, but I hope everyone got their questions answered and got this current state of affairs at the shops at Penn Branch and are satisfied. That's the most important point, that you're satisfied. Okay, awesome. As Anthony said, we will be posting the slide deck on the website. Please go out and give me a day or two at least to get them up there. But we do have some old business that we'd like to revisit at this point before everybody rushes out of the back door. We still have some refreshments back there. I think I see a few trays left, so please grab some on the way out. One of the things that we wanted to make everybody aware of, if you don't know already, our President Shannon Thomas had submitted her resignation letter effective tonight at the end of this meeting. If you have not read that in your newsletter yet, we're making a public announcement about that. And we, according to the bylaws, we're going to follow the bylaws in terms of Myself, Jacqueline Cannon, the current Vice President. I'll immediately move up to the presidency role. The Vice President's role is vacant as of tonight. And we do have information. We've already put the plans in place to, in fact, I have some nominating forms here for anyone that's interested in the vice presidency role. Please grab one of these forms tonight. We'll be collecting them until October 31st. You complete the forms front and back. We ask for, just name and address. On the back, reasons why you want to be vice president, and a brief bio. In the November newsletter, we will be posting all candidates, so everybody's aware as to who's running for that office. We will not be accepting any write-in candidates, so please, I'll be uploading this nominating form to the website. So if you don't get a copy tonight, please check the website within a couple of days. Kyle, our secretary, Penn Branch secretary, on the nominating form is his email address for you to email the forms to him, or you can mail them to the Penn Branch P.O. Box. The position will be filled by majority vote of all members that are in good standing, and you can check the bylaws for what good standing means. On November 12th, that's our next general body meeting. Then this newly elected vice president's position, the term will conclude at the end, it will conclude in June of 2020, along with the current board members at that time. Our 2-year administration period will be up in June of 2020. So with that said, I would like to ask Shannon Thomas, our outgoing president, to come to the podium along with our board members, Laverne, Kyle, Tawana, Elson Nash, he's not here, he's on business travel this evening. Our executive board members as well. Stan, Tony's in the back working her magic at the table. We would like to present you with this plaque that reads Shannon Thomas. Thank you for your leadership and service to the Penn Branch community, dated October 8, 2019. For your leadership and hard work and dedication, we have helped us to gain good strides in the neighborhood, and we appreciate you being a part of our team. You know what I always say, teamwork makes the dream work, and we've been a great team. So we thank you and wish you much success in all of your future endeavors.
Thank you.
All right. And I will turn it over to you for parting words, and we'll conclude the meeting at that point.
I'm going to keep it extremely brief. Thank you. The compliments that I just heard outside were amazing. It really put me in a position where I felt like the hard work that we have set forth is actually translating to other people. They were like, by far, this was the most organized meeting that they have been to in a long time. And I took that compliment very well. They also complimented our website. Thank you, Jacqueline, for working hard on that. They said the information is constantly fresh, and it's up to date, and it surpasses a lot of other boards within the city. And they were just like the professionalism and the etiquette and just coming up and being orderly. So we are headed in the right direction, and I'm confident that this board that stands here before you today will continue to get the job done. And as much as I love this community, I have to go. And so I wish you all the best. No love lost, and you will see me still because my mom is here. And just, let's keep the fire going. Thank you.
There's a card as well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, guys.
Just one other brief announcement in regards to Mrs. Turner's funeral. I was just informed that the arrangements have been finalized. It will be at People's United Church at 4704 13th Street Northwest on Monday, is the wake at 6 p.m. And the funeral is on Tuesday from 10 to 11 a.m. That's People United Church, 4704 13th Street Northwest. Funeral is on Monday at 6 p.m. I'm sorry, wake is on Monday at 6 p.m. The funeral is Tuesday at 10 a.m. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, the meeting, oh, I'm sorry, Jamie.
Ward 7 Education, did you announce that?
Oh, sorry. A couple of other late announcements here I forgot about. Forgive me, it's late. Jimmy, where was that again? Did you email it? Did you?
Yes.
You texted it to me, right?
Yes.
Hold on.
Make the announcement yourself?
Well, why don't you stand up and read it, Jimmy? I'm a bit challenged right now, okay?
Yeah, so there were 2 announcements and... Sorry.
Real quick, ladies and gentlemen.
Real quick, sorry. So 2 announcements. In November, the Ward 7 Education Council wants you to know that they're going to be having a meeting. There will be more details, but they wanted to put a marker so you know that education is important, and that's coming up in November. And then secondly, another announcement that Ayana submitted also for... Ayana, don't let me do this.
Jacqueline has it in her phone. What's the date for it?
Next Friday, October 18th. So Porch Fest in the Mayor's Office on African American Affairs and Porch Fest DC, along with the Mayor's Office on African American Affairs and Say It Out Loud, which is a storytelling series. Storytelling Group is doing an outdoor storytelling series called the Chocolate City Monologues, celebrating the history and culture of DC. So it's next Friday, October 18th at a residence in Hillcrest, 3624 Camden Street, 6:30 p.m.
Thank you all for those announcements. And just one final point, ladies and gentlemen. As we look ahead, our goals are real simple. We want to stay dedicated and committed to serving the Penn Branch community. And we're serving you. Please remember to complete the survey forms that are in the back of the room. We want to hear from you and know more about what you think about what we're doing and what we could be doing going forward. Secondly, we want to heal the divide within the community. I know there's been a lot of stuff going on, and our goal is to just move forward in a positive direction with everybody on board. And thirdly, we want to be the instruments of change to help our community grow, thrive, and survive. And we need everybody's help in doing that. I'm proud of the hard work that everyone has contributed thus far in helping us achieve these goals. But we need your continued support to drive some of these economic development issues and other things that we talked about tonight. So in closing, I want to thank you to all of our guest speakers, Mayor Bowser, Anthony Start, Mayor Bowser's deputies for being here to answer all the questions, the Penn Branch Executive Board, y'all are awesome. I appreciate y'all so much. Pastor Curry in his absence, and the Pennsylvania Avenue Baptist Church staff. Marcus, we love you wherever you are. Thanks for getting the room set up for us so well this evening and getting us all set up. The Penn Branch block captains. How many block captains do we still have in the room? Oh, quite a few. Thank you. Thank you all so much. They were very instrumental in distributing the newsletters to everybody on such short notice this weekend, keeping us all informed. We appreciate you all. Our ladies at the back of the room, Ms. Tony, Ms. Prince, my daughter, everybody who's helped us have a successful evening. Our neighbors, the members, thank you all for coming out and for making this meeting very successful. Megan, thank you for pitching in at the last minute. Appreciate you as well. And ladies and gentlemen, this meeting is now adjourned.